Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining this session and welcome to Charterpreneur Knowledge Session on Startups. So today we have C. Rachit Juneja with us. So Rachit is a chartered accountant by qualification and his total post-qualification experience around 7 years. He has worked with one of the big four, which is KPMG and some startups, including Dunzo and Classplus. And currently he is the head of leverage finance in Leverage Edu, which is a leading startup, I would say study abroad platform, which is helping the students apply for the universities abroad. I think we can ask more about Rachit itself, his journey as a CA student, and जो हमारे सबके मन में क्वेश्चन होता है like कि why did Rachit choose CA as a course? I think Rachit, you can tell us like what was the story behind joining the course?
Absolutely. So just to start, first of all, I'm very glad to be a part of this session. This is a great opportunity to interact with a lot of budding CAs and who want to be entrepreneurs. A great platform, guys, you've developed. So yesterday I was just looking at your page and I was it was like I was dwelling with a lot of pride. Hey, CAs have been doing this. We are so active now on social media, which I'll primarily just to tell you about my current profile. Today I'm actually leading the leverage finance at Leverage Edu, as you correctly said, which is primarily the student financing arm of Leverage Edu. Okay, so where we have been catering to end-to-end financial needs of the student who are looking to study abroad. Before this, I had this opportunity to work with Constellation Blue, which is like a advisory arm of a leading venture capital fund called as Bloom Ventures, where I actually worked with in various capacities, including being an interim FC, as you correctly said, at companies like Dunzo, even Euler Motors, and Leverage Edu at that time was also one of our clients. I'm more than glad to tell you that Leverage Edu was also like one of my first investment. So it all so maybe being the first investment, being a client, so it all came down to, and now I'm actually a full-time part of it. So and before that, as you mentioned, that I started my articleship. I basically did my articleship with KPMG, where I had a immense opportunity to work with a lot of bigger names in the market like Adidas, Reebok. I'll say maybe companies like Minda Corporation, which is a leading automobile. Hence, I got to work with a lot of these like good names in the market. And before I just tell you how my CA journey was, so I think just to tell you about a little about my personal life, I come from a typical business family. So my parents take a lot of pride that their son is the first one who's done this professional degree in the family. Though they've always supported me, but I'll still say they're often unhappy with my odd working hours, which I'm sure most of you would be able to relate to. And absolutely, I'm married to this wonderful woman who I've known for years now, and we had we both are parents to a beautiful daughter. And yes, I am a sports enthusiast and love to play badminton and cricket like on Sundays. But in fact, I'm currently on a house arrest. I broke my leg last week, so I've been in the house for a week. Haven't been able to work. That's something about my personal life. Yeah, coming back to the CA journey, it has been full of ups and downs. I was an extremely bright student, I'll say. But I was like could have managed studies as well as sports along with it throughout my school and college life, where I also cleared my interim with flying colors. But final came as a rude shock, to be very honest, where I have no apprehensions or I don't want to hide that fact. I've been very vocal about it. Came as a rude shock, where it took me a time to clear. But I'm really thankful to those testing times, I'll say, which not only made me mentally stronger, but also made me extremely persistent with my efforts. And I think that's like one of the quality which I had developed that time, which is also helping me like setting up something from the scratch in the startup, right? And so that's how my journey has been. And when it comes to what made me do CA, right, Vishal? That's what thing you asked me. So I remember how easily I was charmed with. There was this particular my father's CA. His knowledge and how he used to give a lot of these, like while sitting on the table, across the tables, he used to give solutions like as if he remembers everything. And how his advice always mattered to my family, right? So I think that was the first time, and which what actually made me curious, that like what a CA does, and made me research about it more. I think I was very young, but that's where that's the first memory I think I have of even thinking of what CA is. And then obviously opting for commerce in class 11th made me more inclined towards pursuing CA. But however, I had opted for non-med. I'll be very honest.
Oh,
Like first few days, I had opted for non-med, and looking at I think some physics book or something, which made me realize, dude, you will be
This
out
is
of the
not your
sport.
cup of tea.
It's not my cup of tea, and I thought everyone was preparing for that IIT, Akash. I don't know what is happening in class 11th, and I was actually wondering, dude, when will we get time to play? Because I've always been into so much into sports, but I never knew that CA would also be even a like nothing less than that particular book. But yeah, obviously I got to know that later once I had done my +2. So yeah, that's more of my what made me choose CA, and yeah, my journey in during this
you
CA.
are a kind of all-rounder guy, like a sport enthusiast, quite bright guy, and then like he done articleship from Big Four. Everything was like look like कि सब कुछ बहुत बढ़िया है, like. Okay, so yeah, you're saying something, I think.
Vishal, I think I don't think so. Matlab, I absolutely agree. You also want to try a lot of things. Some things
Yeah.
fail, some things don't. So while doing articleship with Big Four, I was so engrossed in work. I remember that when it came back to studying for finals, at that
Yeah.
time you realize, oh, dude, how do you get back that how do you get back to your books, right?
Yeah,
Because you've
true.
been away from it for such a while, and you've been like a professional. Now you've been working on the clients day in day out. And so maybe I think everything comes with its own pros and cons.
True.
But yeah, has been a great sweet journey, which I really cherish.
So going back to your articleship, like you have done your articleship from KPMG, and after qualifying, you worked with them for almost 2 years. Why did you take that switch from work while you are working in the Big Four in auditing department, and then you went for a startup as an interim financial control? What was like thoughts kya the us time? What was going behind your mind?
Yeah, man, I'll be very honest. See, when I was in KPMG, startup was just a buzzword for us, right? It was just a buzzword for us. So there was this particular co-working startup who appointed Big Four as like KPMG as their auditor, and that actually, but till that time, you've always seen a very well-established company or a bigger company appointing Big Fours. But like a startup coming in, and then you like, oh, and everyone's like, okay, will they also be able to afford what a Big Four charges, right? So that actually drew my attention towards it, that something tangible is happening in this space, and I developed my interest in knowing more. So after that, I think almost a year later, Vishal, almost a year later, I think I was in Bangalore for a client.
Okay.
Where I attended, I think I was doing Timex at that time, if I'm not wrong. So where was this event happening on Sunday? And I, being alone, being a bachelor, you didn't have a lot to do there. So I thought I'll just attend this event, which was primarily about a lot of founders and startups world happening. I think somewhere in Kormangla, I remember. So that day, I actually interacted with a person who eventually turned to be my boss in Bloom Ventures. So Constellation Blue, I'll say. So I interacted with him, and he was like one of the few CAs in that particular event, right?
Okay.
So obviously you are also always searching for your own comfort zone, and obviously if you actually end up meeting a CA, you feel like, oh, there's someone who come from a similar background and would be able to connect to you. So that's where I met him. And then I actually heard him what he's been doing. He was working with, I think, one of the startups there as a financial controller at that time. He was working as a startup with one of the financial, as a financial controller with one of the startups. And so he just told me what a startup does and where this world is going. And obviously, as you were saying, I also had a lot of question about the uncertainties, instability, which are connected with the startup. But yeah, obviously, I stayed in touch with him. After a year down the he had made a move to Constellation Blue, where he was setting up the Delhi practice. So he gave me a chance to lead that practice. So this gave me a like a taste of startup world, and like when I was working with Constellation View, I realized that working with so many new startups, working with so many founders, it really excited me, and it also made me realize how this fast pace of this particular world really I just made me feel that this is something I really want to do. I want to at least try my hand at. And yeah, but when it comes to uncertainties, I'll say there's no denying that that being successful requires immense amount of hard work, be it in any organization, whether a very well established, I'll say, or a growth stage startup, right? But however, I just would like to tell everyone on this call that being in a startup can make your learning, specifically learning and the growth curve, pretty steep. So that is what also excited me, and I think a lot of people should think about it, like the type of work you're doing. What is the learning curve? Like what sort of learning curve would you have? Would it be a flat line? Would it be a steeper line? So, and see, I would not say that uncertainties do not exist at all. I'm the last one to say that. We need to be very realistic when it comes to that. But one cannot discount the fact, the opportunities which a startup presents you with, right? So if I actually talk about my own company right now, right? We have like 23, 24-year-olds who are managing a team of 8 to 10 people, right? And they're pretty good at it. At times in meetings, we are surprised to know age of a lot of people, right? And now, like, I'm sure we all would know that at such a young age, people do not really get such position of responsibility in a very more established organizations.
Yeah.
So yeah, that really excited me, that it's not just by the number of years you've spent. It's also about with your own caliber that you get those opportunities and to build something from the scratch.
I think you have highlighted correctly. So I think most of the people in the audience will have this question, like they're if they have passed out recently or looking for some opportunities. So दो तरह के option है, like either they can go for a big firm and they can go for a small mediocre firm or mediocre firm who is dealing in the startup advisory or due diligence kind of stuff, and they can start their career with them. Okay, yes. So going back, like as an auditor, how the experience of auditing helped you when you worked as an interim financial controller? I think most of the guys has worked in the auditing and they have this question.
See, if you talk about my movement from auditor to being an FC,
yeah,
it was a turn of tables. I'll be very honest. See, considering being an auditor, you are the one who is reviewing books, pointing out like a lot of mistakes, and you take a lot of pride in it, right? And giving solutions to the clients. This is how they should have done. Whereas while being an FC, I think I was the one who was making sure that the books are prepared pretty well, and was worrying about meeting the compliances. However, having been on the opposite side, I'll always say that when you're an FC, keeping books is in order is just one part of the job, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not a job, because you, especially when it comes to a startup, because I had that opportunity to work in a startup itself. I've not been an FC to a very established firm. So you also need to put a lot of processes in place, like develop a lot of SOPs, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Because a startup, when it is born, the main focus is on the business, right? They don't really care where the books are going. I'll be honest. I've seen this with a lot of founders, and especially people who, and that's one advantage which comes to us because of being a CA. We know maintaining book is not it's not a rocket science, right?
Yeah.
So it's better to do it side by side rather than doing one thing like maybe at end of the year. But yeah, as an FC, as I said, you work on a lot of things, like maybe working capital management, right? Like taking the right calls for the treasury from the treasury point of view, making sure every penny, because that really matters to the startup, like to anyone actually. The money is you're doing the work for, right? Penny is utilized in the most efficient and the diligent manner. So yeah, and then also working on a lot of financial models and business models, investor reporting. And also luckily at all these companies, wherever I had to work, they were in the middle of fundraising.
Okay, great.
Right. So which gave me a good exposure of due diligence and various compliances which are to be followed or to be met with while the company is in the middle of fundraising.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's how it was when it comes to my movement from being an FC to the auditor. I'm sure a lot of credit goes to audit because of my understanding about the financials and the number movement, right? And also compliances. So coming from the auditor background, I related a lot of my success to Big Four. Like my articleship, not saying Big Four, but my articleship, because that's where you learn the most.
I think that's what the CA journey tells us. वो patience, persistent, वो सारा कुछ वो inherently आ जाता है. You have invested in a lot of startups. So like, how do you know about them? Like कि वो जो angel networks है उनके through पता लग रहा है या they are some common friends या फिर you approach to them in some of how?
So, like Vishal, I'm a very young investor. I'll be honest. I started this journey 3 years back, where I realized that a startup can generate even much more return than the stock market. So, but yeah, obviously the risk stands with it. But yeah, when it comes to how did I get to know about them? I'll say, Vishal, most of these, like my first few investments were via common friend. And then the rest of the investments have been via angel list networks. Obviously, there also you need someone to introduce you. It's not like you just log in and you get deals to explore. Yeah, as I said, few have been via mutual friends, few have been via this angel list networks. But of late, I've also been I've also been evaluating a lot of pitches. Now, like after 3 years down the line, I've been being directly approached by a lot of founders, and they would I've been evaluating their pitches as well.
Okay, I think that will be my next question. Like, what are the key considerations then that you will look for when you look at a pitch and you identify like this is the risk reward ratio and how much you have to invest, and for that percentage you have to invest?
I see. My first investment, I did not have any criteria, to be very honest. I just, and that was Leverage Edu for sure. So I believed in it. I thought they're doing well, and I just went for it. I know it was a big risk for me at that time, putting a check in at that age, I'll say, but it has paid off, and I've been very glad. But yeah, I think you should always look at 3-4 things. I'll say one is the founder. First of all, founder and his ambitions. Like the founder should have the conviction, first of all.
Yeah.
Until unless you don't believe in your idea, no one else would believe. Right? खुद में कन्विक्शन होनी जरूरी है कि यार हम कर लेंगे, ऐसे करेंगे, जैसे मर्जी करके करेंगे. वो उसने कहा था ना, अमन ने हम भी बना लेंगे. That's a meme on Instagram these days. So like that conviction should be there. And second should be like the problem they're trying to solve. And but maybe a GTM, like what is the target market? How big is the target market? I'll say. A third could be like how big is the target market? Or do you think it is like it can scale pretty quick? And obviously, as I said, when you're a young investor, you should always look at the co-investors, because you should always see co-investors come with a lot of experience, and you should always look at the co-investors. And I've always believed don't invest in FOMO, like don't invest in fear of missing out, because see, it's not necessary to be a part of every party, right? Yeah. And you should not like I've seen a lot of people these days because startup mein paisa ban raha hai, ye ho raha hai, wo raha hai, sab paise laga rahe hain. Guys, the main thing is not just about paper money; it's also about the exits, right? You should get that cash back in your bank account, right? And I'm sure I obviously a lot of these key renowned investors they have made decent money, and they are pretty good at evaluating startups. They have a pretty they have a hawk eye, I'll say. But yeah, as I would like to just maybe close this with something like that. Startup is a very risky investment, right? तो उतना ही पैसा लगाओ, उतना ही invest करो, जो कल ना भी आए, तो everyone should be okay with it. Yeah. So at least for the first 2 investments, until you've not seen how they've been growing, you should always be extra diligent, I'll say.
I remember,
I guess.
Yeah, I remember like while watching Shark Tank India, so the main thing is सब कहते हैं कि पैसा फाउंडर पे सबसे पहले लगता है, आइडिया बाद में आता है, like कि because founder has to prove like कि पैसा I think leverage एडू में भी आपने जो पैसा लगाया वो अक्षय के ऊपर विश्वास करके लगाया, like उस टाइम तो पता भी नहीं था प्रोडक्ट क्या होगा, लास्ट में क्या बनेगा. I think yeah. Also like कि हमने there is a startup called Tyke which help people to invest in the startups. Okay, that startup is also founded by a CA. Shark Tank के टाइम पे उनकी बहुत ऐड चली है, like कि
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of these platforms these days which are helping people invest in startups, to be very honest. A lot of, for example, I remember this, there's a venture capital fund, which initially IP Ventures, which primarily was I think they have a lot of pool of new age investors. They're not new age investors, but like investors who are not a part of the startup ecosystem. So basically, they make a lot of people invest in startups, and
Yeah.
I think they have their own fund now. But yeah, so I'm sure there are a lot of similar to that. They have a lot of other I'll say venture capital funds or even these networks, as I mentioned, who are
Yeah.
helping you invest in a good startup.
So now coming on to one another question, ESOPs. So a lot of early stage of startups go for ESOPs and create a ESOP pool. Okay, and I think a lot of the participants have this question: if they will be starting in the future, they have less funds and they want to establish an ESOP pool. So what is the criteria like how much they should park in that ESOP pool and how they should pass that to employees and what will be the vesting period, that kind of stuff?
Vishal, a very nice question. Just that I would like to, because I come from a consulting background where I've actually got to deal with a lot of ESOPs. So maybe I would just like to tell all the audience over here slightly more about how ESOP is. See, you always need to feel whatever, like uh, uh, howsoever big or small the company is, right? Dedicated workforce is the key to being successful, right? So that's why these ESOPs have been issued. I think they've been issued to, like, you can actually issue ESOPs to maybe, like, I'll say three sort of I'll divide into three. One could be like your core team, right, where who you would want them to stay. Second would be incentivizing your I'll say incentivizing your top performers, and obviously it also instills a lot of sense of ownership in the employees. So in the employees. So see, when you are a young startup, as you mentioned, Vishal, that a lot of these people would be doing CS. So it's like there can be a split in the ESOP. One is like at a very early stage, there can be high ESOPs considering you would not have that much funds, and plus low cash element. Then maybe once you have raised some rounds and you're at like a growth stage startup, it could be lesser ESOP and more cash, more cash. So you would have seen any person who's joined slightly later in the startup world, like startup journey, like Series B, Series C होने के बाद,
Yeah.
उसका ESOP हमेशा कम रहता है, but salary is like, oh, damn high,
True.
right? So because at that time ESOP holds far more value than the cash in the hand, I'll be honest. And obviously once you have grown, like maybe like 5-6 years, you've raised a lot of money, everything is okay, then it's a balance of everything. It's a balance of everything. And I think I always suggest that it should only happen, you should only create ESOP pool once you have a VC, like a VC has come in. Like once you've raised money from the VC, you can obviously pre-commit to your employees. Maybe, but see, because otherwise what will happen, a founder would end up diluting much more.
True.
आज मेरे पास 100 है, मैं 10 आज दे दूंगा 10%, तो 90 रह जाएगा, राइट? कल मैंने फंड रेज किया 20% पे, 80 और 20 था, अब मेरे को 10 बनाना है, तो मेरा उसमें से 8 ही जाएगा. So you always need to see, it can be, I would not say a person would like मुझे day 0 पे बनाना है, VC आए ना आए. So there could be a bootstrap startup which is cash rich tomorrow, so you might have to create it. But yeah, as I said, if you actually plan to raise a lot of money and you think that's the way you want to build your startup, then obviously I think it should only be created once the VC has come in, maybe a pre-series VC or something. And or you should always take help from a professional. And I'm sure a lot of we are CAs ourselves, so we might have a lot of knowledge about it because it requires a lot of compliances. I still remember, मतलब मैं खुद ही कई बार बताया कितने compliances हैं यार, मतलब because creation of that ESOP scheme, board approval, EGM, filing of that MGT forms with ROC. So all that comes into play. And I think few things which you should consider before offering ESOPs, like that you should be very aware of the tax laws, because that helps you. I'll say design the right policy, right? So today, like when we were designing for Leverage, I remember, so we actually got in someone, an ESOP expert, to understand from him. And then you should also align the ESOP with your vision. Like any employees who's working at something which is very critical for the org, you should give them some sort of ESOPs. And yeah, policy should be flexible and employee friendly, and because otherwise, because that shows the intent of the founder to give ESOPs, and because it's a wealth creating tool, right? And there should be a absolutely clear communication among the employees. I say because I've seen in a lot of startups, what has happened maybe after a while or somewhere because of some elements missing in the policy, because of not very clear communication, things have not really ended on a good note. So which you do not want, because if you're building something, you would not want to get into those things.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, a founder should always stay open to feedback, because this would only act as a tool to retain talent in future.
Okay, so now coming on the valuations part, like we have seen in Shark Tank India, like कि लोग आ गए और उन्होंने बहुत सारी हाई वैल्यूएशंस मांगी, like we have seen like कि ये लोगों को अभी तक समझ नहीं आया कि वैल्यूएशंस किस बेस पे हो रही हैं, like कि can you please help us in understanding like how you helped startups in their valuations, और valuations work कैसे करती है actual में?
Yeah, to be very honest, valuations are very subjective. Very subjective. कोई भी चीज कितने रुपए की भी हो सकती है, सामने खरीदार होना चाहिए.
Okay.
Right? It's as good as that, I'll say. So there are a lot of tangible and intangible factors which come into play. Right?
Okay.
Tangible factors like revenue, EBITDA, your growth rate, how easily by putting how much money you're able to generate, how much business. Right? So however, there are a lot of intangible factors also, I'll be honest. It can be skill set of the founding team. As you said, founder paisa lagate hain, right? That's an intangible factor. You do not have any sort of numbers backing it. Like a proven experience, like second-time founder. Like you've seen a lot of these second-time founders, they've raised like pre-series में पता नहीं कितने millions they've raised.
Yeah, आजकल तो ऐसा बहुत हो रहा है. Like कि startup start होता है, वो सीधे बहुत पैसा उठा लेते हैं. Like वो founder के ऊपर ही लगता है कि इन पैसा, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Strength of the idea, I'll say. Strength of the idea and how big is the problem you're trying to resolve. So some sort of these intangible factors also come into play. So if you've seen Shark Tank also, there have been few cases where they actually went for like even a 1.5% पे उन्होंने 1 करोड़ रुपए भी लगाया. Right? और कई बार उन्होंने 1 करोड़ रुपए के लिए पूरी कंपनी मांगी होगी.
True.
So everything, it's come down to tangible and intangible factors. It's a very subjective argument. Every investor to its own, I'll be honest. Every investor to its own. At times you might like the idea, you might like the person so much that you want to bet on it. Right? Yeah. And at the end of it, it's all about the ability of the founder to justify the valuation. And obviously, and the discretion of the prospective investors, I'll say. So it could be possible that, if you've seen, some people are looking at revenue. Okay, there can be a multiple of revenue. Maybe a tech-driven company might be valued at 30x of the revenue, like a person, because the scalability is so high. On the other hand, a company which is asset heavy might be valued at 4 to 5x. Right? For example, someone who's developing a loan book today, that day I was evaluating some other lending. So loan book is valued at from 0.8x to 3x. That's the delta. Yeah. So it's very, very subjective, differs from industry to industry, differs from founder to founder. It could at times even pre-revenue. You've seen a lot of pre-revenue startups have raised so much money. I would not want to name, but there's another very famous fintech startup I've seen. Even before generating a single rupee, they were already at Series B or Series C. Right? Yeah. So as I said, a lot of factors is all about if you feel that you can justify that valuation, and you can sell it at like, as I said, कोई 10 रुपए का भी चीज बिक सकती है, 100 रुपए की चीज बिक सकती है. Yeah. Right. So it all depends upon your belief, I'll say.
Coming on to your current role as a head of Leverage Finance, what exactly Leverage Edu do and how it helps students and other professionals who are targeting abroad in the universities, and whether the CS students also and members also who qualified, who are looking for opportunities in abroad, whether in universities and or in all other stuff, how Leverage Edu can help them. I think most of the audience will also targeting abroad. Maybe they want to go for MS. So yeah.
So see, at Leverage Edu, the goal is to make it possible, basically, for anyone to study anywhere in the world. Right? Okay. We've always believed, when it comes to education, that should not be restricted by borders. Right? It should not be restricted by borders. So, and at Leverage Edu, we've always had the student-first approach. We've always had a student approach when it comes to, as you said, a lot of the CS would be interested in pursuing like maybe they pursuing their masters abroad. Yeah. Abroad. I think we also have developed this AI tool where you can actually maybe just by using it, it throws you options what is the best university for you, like where you can easily get an admission, what can be a dream university for you, and third maybe a university where you have to work slightly harder, but it's possible, right? So depending upon the profile and depending on the information you've entered in, we have this AI course finder tool, what we call it as. You can actually figure out what university fits you the best. And there have been we have seen a huge, like when it comes to the geographies, we've seen a lot of jump people going to UK, which actually made us establish a company in UK as well, because of the growth we have seen. Because all of us, similarly to like Australia has been shut, now it is opening up for a while. So UK has been one of the winners which have come out, and we've seen so many students who want to go to UK all of a sudden, which is great because I think they have they have also relaxed their visa. They've also relaxed their post-study visa norms. So that's a great opportunity. And when it comes to Vishal, when it comes to, I'm happy, anyone who wants to go abroad, please ping me personally. Happy to give my number on this chat box. I'm sure Vishal has it. Please ping me, anyone who wants to travel abroad. And when you come to like my job role, what I have been doing. So as I said, so after cracking the admission part of the journey, we're trying to resolve the second biggest problem, which we feel are finances for any of the students. Here we have built primarily two products. One is education loan and Forex. And when it comes to loan, it's like a common application platform to apply to any of the banks. Any of the banks by his or her choice. We have in-house loan counselors who can help you get the best loan deal. So what we've actually seen is a lot of these banks, a lot of these NBFCs, a lot of these lenders would only sell you the product which they have, right? They would not counsel you better. So, but we always want the student to win. So hence, the approach was to make sure that they only get mapped to the best deal available for them and not just take up anything, because that's a very big money you are taking for your career, and you should always have the best terms to repay it back. And also when it comes to second, as I said, second is Forex, right? The remittance, international remittance, what we said. So we've built a product where you can send the money just using that product under 5 to 6 minutes, I'll guess.
Great.
So you don't have to haggle around the bank. You don't have to give any physical documentation. You can just use that platform and like remit money to the universities. Universities and like be it any time of the day. It's like 24/7 available, I'll say. And obviously it's also 3 to 4% cheaper than the bank. So this idea was ideally born when we actually realized the banks were charging humongous margins. And at that particular part of life, you do not want to be overcharged.
True.
It's like you just have begun your career and you just started earning, or maybe you're planning to do a job. So that was the idea, and that's how we built these two products. There are very few exciting announcements which will be made in near future. Obviously, I cannot, out of the confidentiality, I cannot reveal a lot of it. But I'm sure you'll hear about them soon. And I'll personally share it with you as well, Vishal, once those are out.
Yeah, I think that was my next question. What are your long-term plans for Leverage Edu? Okay.
Very exciting plans. We've actually expanded all along geographies. We off late started our Nigeria division. Like 2 months back, where we've been helping Nigerian students as well. Obviously, UK has been there, Canada has been there. We've been figuring out a lot of things I don't want to reveal. I might just end up revealing, but yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of new excitements. Hopefully, another 10-15 days, you'll start hearing them about them.
Okay. So lastly, what will be your favorite movie or books that you keeps on watching and reading that you want to advise them to budding entrepreneurs?
See, I'll be honest. I do listen to a lot of podcasts, but I'm not too much into it. I don't want to make it up. I don't want to tell that, oh, I've been doing everything so nice and you should do that. I've seen a lot of people giving gyan, but that's not the idea. I always have I've always felt that you should not even have your lunch alone. It's all about talking to a lot of people. It's all about interacting with other people, which is not, I think, जो लोग सिखा सकते हैं वो कोई नहीं सिखा सकता. That's my idea. I'm sure podcast also and all these things also do the same thing. But that's where what I enjoy the most. So I make sure that I'm actually meeting 10 different people every week, bare minimum, which makes me learn more. Which makes me learn more, to be very honest. And Yeah, that's how it is. And a lot of people watch movies and all these to like as a, I think, as a stress buster, if you talk about. Though I also watch a lot of Netflix and Amazon whenever I have time, maybe during the flights or during the journeys, because that's the only time you can think of watching them. But I'll be very honest. Today my stress buster is my 1.5-year-old daughter, who
Yeah.
always uplifts my mood, beat whatever. I'll be honest. But I did not realize it before, but today, after like ending my day, I spent half an hour before with her before going off to sleep, and everything's okay, and I'm ready
Yeah.
for the next day. So that's how it is for me today.
Great. So what would be the final piece of advice for budding entrepreneurs who want to start their startups in next couple of months or years, maybe?
So I always feel make advice. I think make more courageous choices
Okay.
while you're young. Something, but I would say it's always while you're young, you have lesser responsibilities, you have lesser to think about. Make more courageous choices. Don't worry too much about the stability, guys. Had everyone been thinking about stability, everyone would have only ended up doing a corporate job or something. Even a lot of people would not have even started their own chartered accountancy practice, right?
Yeah.
Because that also does not give you a lot of stability, at least in the initial years, right? Because to get work, so we should learn that it's not all about playing safe, I'll say, and don't restrict yourself to being I'll say and just think beyond like I'll say don't just restrict yourself to the books and to the course you've done. There's a lot more to be explored in this world. And one advice to, if I'm assuming a lot of CAs are on this particular call, that don't restrict yourself being just a consultant or a financial professional. As we discussed initially in the call as well, that because that's what traditionally CAs have done.
Yeah.
Not saying that being a finance professional or consultant is a bad thing. I'm sure that's a great career. There's a friend of mine who's a director at KPMG. There's a friend of mine who's doing, like, they're doing pretty good in their careers as well. But these are not the only things you can do. That's the only idea. So believe in like, just keep exploring. I'm sure there's a lot of things you can do and you're capable of.